Next, we have a keynote address from Mr. Amreesh Chandra, Business Strategist and Global SDG Campaigner. Mr. Chandra is an edu advisor, philanthropist, and sustainable development advocate committed to advancing education through technology, creativity, and inclusivity. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage Mr. Amreesh Chandra. He will be talking about using your abundance to propel SDGs.
Thank you very much, and a very good evening to all of you. It's indeed a matter of great pleasure to be here and to speak to a sustainable audience, so to say. And it's interesting how we progressed in society. And in the various occasions that I have been to speak from the House of Mosaic, which I represent, I've realized one very important thing, and that came to me when Mr. Kamal just came back and said to the chair that we were sitting that this is the green room. It's interesting that many years ago, the green room used to be where performers would sit and relax. And today, the green room is where the action is. So this is the green room. And a loud round of applause to all of you for being here, for coming, giving your time, and being here. And I would also like to take this opportunity before I really go on my journey and talk to you, to really compliment Dr. Harshvardhan here for having sitting and heard every speaker and every panel since the time this session began. I do not know if Sir had a coffee break or not, but thank you very much for your guidance as the minister when you served the country, and today also leading the discussion that you. Thank you very much, sir. To all those that represent the judiciary, Mr. Basin, and of course, my dear friend and brother, Mr. Sudhir Mishra, you don't just represent the bar, but as an early young evangelist in sustainability, for me, you raise the bar for what you do in sustainability and your understanding. So a round of applause for you as well, for the judiciary. My conversations are broken into two parts. I would love to, at the end of the conversation, focus on IHW and what I see. But very briefly, I'm really impressed to have this opportunity to speak on this occasion. Privileged to know you, Mr. Kamal and IHW. Honored to learn from this relationship of what you do in sustainability. What we basically talk about is, in our journey, is how do you propel the sustainable development goals through the abundance that each of us may have, through our organizations, through our educational institutions, through our hospitals, through our enterprise. How do we propel that? I belong to a family of educationists. This is probably our 49th year. Our schools are known as St. Paul's, and our trust is known as St. Paul's Education Trust. But for many years, apart from looking after the schools, I've had the privilege to be across the world with advocacy in education, sports, and health. And since 2014, predominantly in the field of sustainability, but specifically in the Sustainable Development Goals. What we believe is very simple. It's not a complex subject. It may be green, and today everything we talk about, from green humor to green paper to green council, seems to be defining sustainability in different ways. But sustainability is defined in 17 different ways, with 17 different colors. So what we are suggesting, what I understand sustainability as very simply, is a very simple story. And the simple story is, how could we use to whatever we have as abilities, as individuals, as institutions, to use that and use that abundance to do that. Now let's come to universities. Recently I was called to speak in a forum, the Times Group in Thailand, where we had the World University. It was a university ranking system. And we said, and I asked them, what is your abundance? The abundance of a university, for example, comes in its students. The abundance of a university comes in the campus that it has. And no university is in 20,000 square feet. They're in hundreds of acres, be it UK or America or our country, India. So the question is, if you go down to these universities, the leading universities now, the top 50 universities, you would find that each of these universities have a course or a curriculum that is offered in some module of sustainability. You could become a chief sustainable impact officer. You could become a chief sustainable content officer. You could become a chief sustainable officer. But none of these universities, while they have put resources in making these programs, and they wonder why children do not take these courses up, none of these universities show a single expression of a goal in their entire campus, in their entire collaterals, in their entire brochures or one magazine. Not one university that I have visited in 27 years, but more aggressively since 2014 till date. And I'm a fellow of few leading Russell Group universities, not even them offer this. However, when you go back to India and you look at the model, and Sir would understand this, having been a former minister, that you'd find that each government school, and this is where I'm coming to the point, each government school will have loads of wall paintings talking about one scheme or the other. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. This eradication and that eradication. And yet the government wants, and I do not have a political agenda, I have a sustainable agenda. And yet we want that we should be the top achievers by 2030. I'm sorry to say that even a district magistrate of a district may not know the 17 goals and what they mean. So now when we are going across our districts and cities in India, I'm talking about India now as a model, the idea is we are not doing, while we have a model of a recall system of advertising or marketing to orient people what they could get as an agri loan or an eradication vaccination or a scheme, we are not using them to make them sustainably conscious citizens. And neither are the universities across the world. In both scenarios, you have an abundance that we are not optimizing. So the thing is, how do we optimize our abundance and use this? You come to a hotel, you come to this hotel. It might be a LEED certificate hotel. But at any point of time in this hotel, have you seen an SDG goal that talks about or makes you conscious? You will not. You might still have reminders in toilets of the wash that the bathroom should go to, but it will not have a tag of SDGs. I wonder why any of our institutions do not carry or talk about or use our walls, our corridors, our toilets, our cars, our transportations, our drivers, our magazines, our newspapers on the top to talk about the SDGs, what they are, and orient them with the colors or the objectives or whatever they are. So as House of Mosaic, we took it on us that we will work only on level 0, as described by the United Nations, which is we will only create awareness. If you are not aware, you cannot be compliant. So we do not work on compliance. We do not suggest that. There are various agencies do that. What we do is we work with institutions, with governments, with agencies, with initiative makers. So for example, if I have to pick up just an example here, I would pick a Bisleri. I would say, sir, can you carry a logo of an SDG on your bottle? Every time, maybe the first 10 Bisleri bottle openers will miss it. Maybe the 11th would see it. Maybe the 15th would see it and say, now what is this? We can do a trademark on that. We have forever known the advertisement campaigns of Amul. Why is not a single Amul ad made that we watched since the time of R.K. Lakshman that talks about one SDG goal and one color? We do not. We are very careful to wear the color of ties and the pocket squares that we wear to match, but we still do not know what a green color would be, what a yellow color would be, or what a red color would be. It's very important to, and at this just moment, I'll just take a quick 1 second break because Kamalji said you have to be the showstopper. I'm not, but I'll do something to stop the show. And just let me show you one photograph that the media team can show that. Dr. Anushka, if you can just put that picture on screen to show how basically just in a small town in Gorakhpur, we have used our campus in every which way that you can to show and display the SDG goals. Whether it be a water tank, whether it be a lawn tennis court that will tell you what green sports is, be it the corridors, be it the staff room, be it the table tennis room, the auditorium, the toilets, it'll each tell you which goal does it talk about. And therefore, in the city of Gorakhpur, we are going to open on this 28th of September, the first SDG Aware School of India, probably of the world. Probably of the world. And what is just taken is just a club of passionate evangelists in sustainability, teachers and students put together, that said, let's put this learning now on the ground. It's not a big task for us to do this, but what it requires is an agenda. And that agenda can be defined by 17 goals. So now what we do is that in the House of Mosaic, while we do this, let me go a little further down. When you have an institution or a business house, you'll have events, you'll have collaterals, you'll have magazines. We created the first storybook known as Salad, tossed in the flavors of sustainability. Short stories tossed in the flavors of sustainability. Our idea is a little big, but I promise you that we'll deliver it someday. The idea is to create 17 episodes, a mini-series on 17 goals of SDGs. And of course, then have some flick somewhere who wants to take it. But no movies that you see, even absolutely obvious movies on gender equality, will talk about the subject, but will not orient you about the goal that they hit. I would not want to ask this question, but I did. I know the answer will be 0. If there's anybody here in this hall that runs an organization that does sustainability and carries a orientation program of the goals that you hit broadly displayed. But I was impressed when I entered the ISW Council. And I remember requesting Mr. Kamal to have a photograph there. And the sustainability R, the wheel in it, is one example of how you can merge your initiative and the SDGs and bring out something as defining as the sustainability R. So thank you very much for taking that initiative. It's absolutely amazing. So this is what we do as a House of Mosaic, is where we just talk to people and we tell them the story of how you can do this. On this 28th of September, we've taken another big leap of faith and a leap in sustainability. And what we have done is that we have created a parallel program to the global goal wheels in United Nations. In the city of Gorakhpur, collected world leaders, green thinkers, philosophers, professors from universities to come to the city of Gorakhpur and celebrate with us a top agenda. And the agenda is propelling your abundance to talk about SDGs. And we celebrate that with an award system that first took place in the House of Lords. And I'm very lucky that we are the first recipient in Mr. Sudhir Mishra here, known as the Guardians of Sustainability and the Angels of Sustainability. And in my last bit, we create councils like the Green Council, the first Green Council of Vice Chancellors across the world that talk about the agenda of propelling your abundance with the awareness of SDGs. We all talked about stories, and before I leave, I'd love to leave you with this little story which describes what ISW has done. And it's a promise on this note that the House of Mosaic will be a participant with you in the sustainability hour to wherever you want to take it. And the story goes that in 1984, in Phoenix, Arizona, there was a bear that came to street. The bear was wild, it had to be caught, and it was caught by the wildlife department there. When it was caught, it was decided by the mayor of Phoenix, of the city, that they would make a cage to keep the bear. But the cage had to be so big that even if the bear grew in 2 years' time, it would still be able to hold the bear. So in 2 years' time, they made a natural habitat. And after 2 years, the moment came, the cage was airlifted, brought to the park. The mayor was there, cameras, lids, picnic baskets, you name it. They were all there. The cage was open. The mayor pressed the button. The cage was open. But the bear did not walk out. The morning went to the afternoon went to the evening. The mayor packed his bag. Breakfast, the picnic baskets were folded up. Sandwiches had finished. Media people went back. And they waited for the bear to walk. But nothing happened. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the zookeeper called the mayor and said, "Mayor, I think the bear is going to walk out." So in came the mayor and whichever media could come in. And they came in. But the thing is that while he walked into, he saw that there was a rattle in the cage and the bear was beginning to walk. Friends, the bear walked straight ahead of the cage, looked left and right as if he was on a crossing, then decided to go on his left hand side. And as he walked a few steps on his left hand side, and hear my story on this very carefully, he touched his chest as we do when we leave a pen, and as if he had left something back in his cage, and he went back to his cage. As soon as he went back in the cage and stepped inside the cage, he slumped. A few minutes gone, and the mayor suggested to the vet, "Please go and check the bear." As the vet poked the bear, he slumped on one side and was declared dead. He had had a heart attack, and the bear had died. The silence here was a silence there. And the mayor was absolutely lost that his wish to give him a habitat for life sustainably had somehow got lost somewhere. How could he die? So he went across and stood there across the cage. And he just looked at them and he just started going back to what the bear had done. Friends, remember, he had walked straight, left and right, walked left, had forgotten something, walked back. He had walked 12 feet, he had walked 8 feet, and then he had walked back 12 feet. He had walked the exact measurement of the cage in which he was kept for 2 years. Even though he was set free, he was still captive. In his mind, he had not been able to break the shackles of the captivity in which he was kept. IHW Sustainability Hour does exactly this, is breaking the shackles and telling us that we are free to think and breathe sustainability. But can we do that? Thank you very much and God bless.